Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Well guys, in section 3 there is a common type of questions in academic IELTS reading. We call it flowchart completion. Now about flowchart completion, you don't know whether the questions and passage they are in the same order, how to read the flowchart, where to scan the passage, how to know where the answers are going to start and then they are in order or they are not in order. If you have all these confusions, this video is tailor-made for you and you have to watch this video until the end, and believe me, it will not be a waste of time and waste of your internet as well. Okay, so let's take a start. We're going to deal with flowchart completion. I'm going to read the questions. I'm going to give you my tips while solving this test. Let's take a start. Alright, now let's move on. Questions 34 to 39, flowchart completion. Usually the questions and answers are in the same order in flowchart completion. So usually they are in the same order, and by the way they are grouped together as well because flowchart has got the steps. Step 1, step 2, so they are all in the same order most of the time and they are grouped together. No more than 2 words. Okay, now be careful. And or a number. So it's 2 word, and means plus or means only. Okay, plus a number or only a number. So it can be 2 words and a number, or only a number, or 2 words plus a number. Anyways, let's see. Method of determining where the ancestors of turtles and tortoises come from. Method means how do they determine. Okay, so we just need to find the method of doing it. Alright, we've been through this. Okay, they say here one way to tell is by measuring the bones of there. The method of measuring. Walter Joyce and this Yale University obtained 3 measurements in these particular bones. Okay, so measurement or method of determining, let's just read on. Okay, so first we need to see the 71 species of living turtles. Alright, actually what I did not read this, so you need to read this also. 71 species of living turtles and tortoises were examined, and a total of dash were taken from the bones to their forelimbs. 71 species, I found it here. You can see. Now I need to read on and I'll find the answers here. So what's the question? Examined, and a total of dash. Total of dash means it's going to be a number. Total of dash. So whenever they say total of dash were taken, were means plural, answer is plural, from the bones of their forelimbs. So 71 species of living turtles and tortoises, they used a kind of triangular graph paper to plot the 3 measurements. Against one another, and all the land tortoise species formed a tight cluster of points in the upper part of the triangle. They used a kind of triangular graph paper. Okay, they used a graph paper to plot the 3 measurements. Alright, so what's the question? A total of dash were taken. Yes, measurements. And 3. Exactly. Yes, that's right. So 3 measurements. Now guys, one thing, remember, they have written 3 THREE. Do not write this 3. Okay, you got to write this 3, actually 3 measurements. So a total of HREE 3 measurements, plural. If I write measurement, my answer can be wrong. 3 measurements were taken from the bones to their forelimbs. So there they say, graph paper, the plot of 3 measurements against one another, all the land tortoise species form the tight cluster and blah 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 and all that. Okay, so 3 measurements. Now let's go on. Step 2. The data was recorded on a means they recorded the data on something. A means the answer is singular. The data was recorded, written, noted, necessary for comparing the information. All right, and then there is the outcome. Now let's see. Against all the land tortoise species formed a tight cluster of point in the upper part of the triangle. All the water turtles cluster in the lower part of the triangle. Triangular graph. All right, triangular graph. Let's see. So, three measurements against one another. All the land tortoise species formed a tight cluster of points in the upper part of the triangle. Okay, all water turtles cluster in the lower part of the triangle. They, sometimes they make the data and on triangle they write the things and all that. Now we got to see the question is basically the data was recorded on a. It can be a surface on which they wrote and all that. Cluster in the lower part of the triangular graph. All right, so it means this data was written in a triangular graph. Okay, sometimes we make a triangular graph. So the question is the data was recorded on a triangular graph. Exactly, you guys can see here triangular graph. So let's write it down here. Triangular graph. Okay, triangular graph is the answer here. Now let's see outcome. What was the outcome? See, we are doing section 3, the toughest one, academic reading. Okay, land tortoises were represented by a dense something. Land tortoises were represented by a dense something of points towards the top. All right, again they are talking about the same graph and all that. Land tortoises were represented by a dense something. There was no overlap except when they added some species that spent time both in water and on land. All right, sure enough, these amphibious species show up on the triangular graph approximately halfway between the wet cluster, dense wet cluster of sea turtles and the dry cluster of land tortoises. All right, let's read the question again. Land tortoises were represented by a dense dash of points towards the top. Okay, so for that they are using this word halfway between the wet cluster, okay, of sea turtles and dry cluster of land tortoises. Dry cluster of land tortoises, and there they see outcome. Land tortoises were represented by a dense and then cluster of points towards the top. And how do we know? They are mentioning here halfway between the wet cluster of sea turtles and the dry cluster of land turtles. The next step was to determine and all that. So this actually a dry cluster of land tortoises. So dense of points is already written. So we are going to just write this cluster. C-L-U-S-T-E-R. If you don't understand, read it on your own and then decide. Outcome, land tortoises were represented by a dense cluster of points towards the top. Let me see if there is anything about top as well. There was no overlap when they added water, sure enough. Species show on the triangle graph approximately halfway between the wet cluster of sea turtles and the dry cluster of land tortoises. The next step was to determine where the fossil fell, the bones and the points of graph right in the... Okay, so again they say dry cluster, both these fossils were dry land. Okay, both these fossil clusters were dry land tortoises. They come from the era before our turtles returned to the water. Okay, all right, let's go on. Next, question number 37, step 3. The same data was collected from some living dash species. The same data, they are talking about that, and added to the other results. Okay, same data was collected from some living something. Now that's what we got to find. Okay, yeah, this is section 3 guys, when the time is running out, 2-3 minutes are left and all that. Okay, then they say we need to just see if there is anything, the bones, their points on the graph, right there, they come from the era, you might think therefore that modern land tortoise. No, they don't say anything about data. It means the answers are here somewhere. So at times you have to go back. There was no overlap except when they added some species. Oh yes, oh yes. What's the question? The same data was collected from some living species and added to the other result. All right, let's just see. There was no overlap except when they added some species that spent time both in water and on land. Sure enough, these amphibious species, wow, these actually means the species. And what's the question? The question is the same data was collected from some living amphibious species and added to the other results. So this word amphibious species show up on the triangular graph approximately halfway between the wet cluster, blah blah blah. Amphibious and species is already mentioned. Amphibious, I think my spelling is correct, huh? Amphibious, that's right, amphibious. Okay, let's go on. It's not a piece of cake, by the way. Outcome. The points for these species means actually these amphibious. The points of these for these species turned out to be positioned about dash up the triangle. Positioned, I mean the position of the data I told you on that triangle, positioned about dash up the triangle between the land tortoise and the sea turtle. Between the land tortoise and the sea turtle. Alright, so the points of these species turned out to be positioned about means you have to check their position. Alright, where were they positioned and all that. Okay, we read about this amphibious and all that. Show up on the triangular graph approximately halfway between the wet cluster of the sea turtles and dry cluster. Okay. See that? Species show up on the triangular graph approximately halfway. Amphibious species and these species, triangular graph approximately halfway between the wet cluster of sea turtles and the dry cluster of land tortoises. Halfway. Answer is so simple and the questions are so confusing. The points of these species turned out to be positioned about half. Now, do they have any hyphen between halfway or not? No, there is no hyphen. So we will write halfway. Okay, we are still left with one question. Step 4. Now let's see. Bones of P, yeah, I read this word in the passage, and this, I don't need to read it, okay, were examined in a similar way and the results added. Outcome. The position of the points indicated that both these ancient creatures were, now something similar, something common in these ancient creatures, and these are, I think, the creatures, bones of this and that. Alright, let's see. Exactly, I found it here. Now we got to see both these creatures were, means something plural. Leave us in no doubt. Their points on the graph are right in the thick of the dry cluster. Both these fossils, now both these fossils means the fossils of these animals, were dry land tortoises. Both these fossils were dry land tortoises. Now what's the question? The question is outcome. The position of the points indicated that both these ancient creatures were, plural answer, and over here you can see both these fossils. Now for fossils they are using the word ancient creatures and their fossils actually. So both these fossils were dry land tortoises. Dry land. By the way, when we write hyphen between a word, it is treated as one word. It's important to remember. Dryland tortoises. I learned the spelling of tortoise when I was in class 3. Tortoises. Tortoise. I still remember that. Okay. Dryland tortoises. So dryland is one word, tortoises is two word, because we got two word answer. That's it. Enough is enough. Welcome back. How are you feeling? Are you feeling confident? I told you it's not going to be a waste of your MBs and waste of your time. So, now we've reached the end of the video. Thank you very much, by the way, that upon my request you watched this video till the end. I'm thankful to you for that. I teach IELTS online. If you want to join my online IELTS classes, my WhatsApp number is given. You can contact me for that. Asad Yaqub wishes you all the best. Take care. Allah Hafiz.